Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on January the 6th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got a lot of great information for you, but I want to share something with you first. As you know, Murtech.com, I update this site multiple times a day, and I was out already tonight looking for stuff to update the site with tomorrow, and I found something on Vince Dow's page. Now, here at Murtech.com, if you click on the thumbnail or the description of the video, it will take you right to the video. But if you click on the producer's name, it'll take you to their channel. So see right here is Vince Dow, and this was I want to share this. I think this is the one.
Your ex-president.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Let me share this with you. New Venezuela president immediately grovels to Trump as socialist military gets humiliated. Okay, I just want to share this little meme with you here. It's about 30 seconds, so here we go.
Your ex-presidente, Señor Maduro, is no longer your presidente. He kept talking shit, and fucking around, though, and he ultimately found out, though. Anyway, we're going to make Venezuela grande again. Mucho grande. El bigger, el better than ever before.
So let's talk right now about the current...
Okay. I'll probably be sharing this video on Murtech.com, and I might even share that video. Hang on here. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, I just want to make sure that the audio came through on that. Okay, here we go. Let's jump back here and click the Rumble link to take us over to Murtech on Rumble. This is the video we're viewing tonight, my episode 1799. Okay, let's jump into this. Pause this and close out the live chat, then slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. Okay, tonight we have information from ACLJ, Doug in Exile, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I have a lot of great shout-outs. I had 12 people follow me today. J.N. Kennedy just started following my channel. TomTom104 just started following my channel. JDeal0128 just started following my channel. Yonker01 just started following my channel. Cozy42RU2 just started following my channel. Pat D525 just started following my channel. KH2070Q just started following my channel. Nikki's Glass 1 just started following my channel. Running on MT just started following my channel. Lila 2 just started following my channel. Donna 967 just started following my channel. And Ava Rocks just started following my channel. So thank you so much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, down here, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1798. Lightning Tree Brand replied to me on a comment I made to her. And Lightning Tree Band commented on my daily news wrap-up from last night. Uncloudy and Cotton Ball 31 commented on my episode 1798. Debbie BS commented on my extra 581A. Debbie BS commented on my extra 581B. Deb Brandt and Debbie BS commented on my extra 581C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments and reposting my videos. I greatly appreciate that. I like reading your feedback, and I sincerely appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. There we go. And by the way, I do have one of those thumbs up icons right here below the video that you're watching. If you wouldn't mind scrolling down here and clicking that thumbs up button, I would appreciate that as well. Okay, ACLJ Sekulow, Tim Walz confirms exit in Minnesota. Amazing, isn't it? I guess he just couldn't handle the pressure of all the fraud and corruption. Here we go.
Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, announcing he will not be seeking re-election after the mounting pressure that came over the last couple weeks on the fraud scandal that has broken out in Minnesota, where it looked like what went from $1 billion fraud went upwards of $9 billion. We saw the YouTubers who were going to some of those daycare and learning centers, learning centers, and
Leering
centers. Oh, so it wasn't even, a leering center. And really, that pressure, which shows you the power of independent journalism, shows you the power of what's going on here, pressured Tim Walz to not step down, but to wrap up his time in office. This is after he announced he was going to be making a third-term run, something that was kind of unheard of, even in Minnesota. So, big moment there, a big moment for a lot of people. This shows you that these kind of shows, this kind of pressure does work. Change can happen. Of course, we'll see where things go from here. They'll blame you. They'll blame the independent journalists. They'll blame President Trump and the administration. But of course, we know how this all plays out, which is there has to be a lot of pressure. I mean, allegedly, let's say, a lot of pressure from some people on the inside for this to have been the decision that he made. Not something anyone who's really in power wants to do.
And when you read the statement from Tim Walz, it's 4 pages long. It's kind of meandering, blaming just about everybody but himself for what has going on. And as you mentioned, that there has to be a lot of internal pressure. Clearly, polling numbers or something came back and said, listen, you got to just get out, because he goes from blaming Donald Trump in Washington, people in St. Paul, online. He says it's political gamesmanship from Republicans, and no one has done more than he has on fighting fraud, but yet then there's YouTubers. Like, it literally just goes all over the place and says, so I'll let others worry about the election and I'll focus on work. So he's trying to save face when clearly the writing was on the wall as far as where the election was going to go, but it still shows that he's not willing to take responsibility for what was going on. The entire time he had kept saying, I kept asking for more resources from the legislature. I kept asking for more things, but never really just owned it and took responsibility for this is ballooned to be one of the worst fraud scandals ever. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to end it. And so I think that probably for many in the state was enough. And if they were doing internal polling, they were looking at things, I'm sure his consultants were like, you've got to get out of this race. You are not going to be the first third-term Minnesota governor in.
Okay, now I just want to jump in here. He's the governor. Okay, if there's fraud going on in his state, I would think that he could contact the FBI, and they would help him, although maybe he did under Biden administration, but I don't think that he contacted the FBI under the Trump administration for help. He has state police. He has an attorney general, blaming it on Congress, which is a Republican-controlled Congress, incidentally. Isn't that amazing? Can't take responsibility, can he? Doesn't want to do the job and then blame somebody else for him not doing his job.
The modern era.
Incidentally, that's Democrat strategy for you.
Giving it a lot of time, really. I mean,
right.
You think about it, we're pretty much a year away, 11 months away from the election for Tim Walz. So it's giving enough time for somebody to get their act together, because I'm sure that Democrats were not looking at primarying him. That probably was not happening.
Right.
So there's probably not even an infrastructure set up to who will take his place. I'm sure, obviously, there are always someone in politics angling, but this gives them enough time to get something together in Minnesota.
They're even saying the senator, Amy Klobuchar, is considering running for governor, going back home. And I feel like that type of a move would be a smart one for the party. Someone who has won many terms in the Senate, would be seen as kind of a stable familiar name, would probably be able to do well there coming out of something like this where the incumbent governor is having to step away.
This is happening again. He made this statement. The statements came out. The statements were pretty clear, which is, I'm going to blame everybody else. And it's not really about the fraud. We know the fraud's bad. We got to investigate the fraud. It's really, I don't want to feel like I'm distracted from running this state. A lot of fluff.
The statement itself, which was 4 pages long, could have been read equally as, I'm still running, you can't stop me. Because he says things like, I cannot abide the actions of the political leadership in Washington, these opportunists who are willing to hurt our people to score a few cheap points. They and their allies have no intention of helping us solve the problem and every intention of profiting off of it. Doesn't make any sense right there. But then he goes, which brings me to this. 2026 is an election year, and election years have a way of ramping up the politics at a time when we simply can't afford more politics. Goes on to say, so I've decided to step out of the race and let others worry about the election while I focus on the work. It's an interesting statement, as you said, because he is blaming everyone but himself for the loose controls over their programs, which led to historic fraud. The U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney in Minnesota, said it was at an industrial scale. It made him question everything he knew about the state of Minnesota. That's not someone trying to profit off of political points here. That's the assistant U.S. attorney. And yet he's trying to have it both ways. We're saying, so I'm going to finish my term here really strong, doing the work of the Minnesotans that you elected me to do here, but I'm not even going to worry about these political things. In reality, his consultant said, don't end up being the Joe Biden of Minnesota. Don't be the guy who, as these stories kept coming out, made it impossible for you to win, and you drop out too late or you lose and you allow a Republican to win. I guarantee you a conversation like that was had between Tim Walz and his campaign manager about not being the Joe Biden of Minnesota. He's already lived through that, what it looks like when you are short time frame to try and mount a campaign. So maybe that was what convinced him.
I don't want to lead anyone astray and say that I think he's going to be indicted for this fraud. I'm not saying that they're not going to do a good job looking into it. I think you have a top-notch FBI now who is really breaking things down. So if there is something there, I'm not going to be shocked if they find the accountability there, Will. But I also don't want to pretend to lead people down a road which could lead to something like that.
Based off what we're seeing publicly, is there some alleged crime that Tim Walz has committed? Not that I've seen. The
negligence,
right? Gross negligence of running your state is he's getting the consequences for that. He will no longer be the governor because he will not be seeking re-election
and leaving not in a way anyone wants to leave. Leaving in a way where you have egg on your face, not unlike Joe Biden. Leaving in a way where the American people essentially pre-rejected you before you had time to even lose the election. Or to not fulfill your duties there, they decided it's not worth your time.
As you said, we do need to be careful that just being awful at your job and allowing people to completely defraud your state doesn't necessarily mean you go to prison, where failed politicians don't always go to jail just because they failed at their job. That would turn us into more of a Venezuela, Latin American style dictatorship where they didn't like you, they throw you in prison. So I don't think he's done a good job, but I haven't seen directly anyone alleging that he was benefiting off the fraud.
All right, there you have it, folks. Now, they mentioned Amy Klobuchar, which is a Democrat senator from Minnesota, might possibly run for the governorship. Now, I've heard talk about that, and if she runs for governor, that would leave her Senate seat open, so she could appoint someone to replace her in the Senate. And wouldn't it be interesting if she appointed good old Tampon Tim to the Senate? Donald Trump and his administration is working on exposing the election fraud. That has to be taken care of, the election fraud, because Minnesota may not be as blue a state as they say it is if the election fraud is taken care of. We can only hope and pray. Let's click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what Doug in Exile has to say about Fetterman destroys Democrats over Maduro. Okay, well, let's see what he has to say.
John Fetterman is going through his next stage in Pokemon development into his final form of sounding very articulate, very pro-MAGA. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. You know, Exile ain't so bad if you're here with me, and I appreciate all my viewers. You guys are why I work so hard bringing you the news. Just the news that I think is really important, that tells you who's doing what between the Republicans and Democrats and how it affects the election in 2026 and 2028. Of course, all of you guys in the chat, you all know already what we're about, and you guys make it really fun to do this job. So let's go down to Fetterman sounding like a pretty normal human being patriot. I really like his clarity and his boldness. Watch this.
So Senator Chris Murphy, your Democratic colleague, called the operation wildly illegal. America doesn't want this war. Nobody asked for this. And I think the most important conversation to have is Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. Do you want to take this on?
I respect my friend in Connecticut, but we have different views on this and perhaps other views as well. I just said this on my social media that, remind everybody that America is a force of good, order, and democracy, and we are promoting these kind of values.
I like how he has to tell his own party, by the way. I just want to remind my own party that America is the good guy because his party hates America. We are a force for good.
Are the good guys, let's pretend that now we are acting in a way. Now, remember, we all Democrats years ago wanted to eliminate him, and why have a bounty of $25 million if we didn't want him gone? Why would you do these things if you weren't willing to actually do something other than harsh language?
This is the thing that I learned, and I did not know. How many of you guys knew this? I did not know there was a $25 million bounty put on Maduro's head by the Democrats. And now they become his favorite politician in the world simply because Trump got him. Okay, what's this one here? This is China at the UN.
Security in Latin America and the Caribbean, and indeed internationally. China firmly opposes this, and the international community has also expressed widespread grave concern and strong condemnation. We urge the U.S. to heed the overwhelming voice of the international community, abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, cease infringing upon the sovereignty and security of
China flipping out on America. So at the UN, we gathered all the countries together, and China said that we must stop trying to overthrow Venezuela, and we must, because they were getting all their oil from there. Now comes the fallout over Trump grabbing Maduro, both politically and on the world stage. This is still politics, even though it's at the UN.
Okay, now, there's been a lot said about China getting their oil from Venezuela. Now, I'm no geologist, but a country that's as big as China, you would think that they have oil reserves there, that they wouldn't need to have to depend on anyone else. Unless they just don't know how to drill it, and I find that very hard to believe. Or, I don't know why China would have to depend on someone else for their oil. They have plenty of coal mines, I guess, in China, because I understand they're building a new coal-powered plant every week or every other week or twice a week. I've heard all kinds of numbers about that. At any rate, they're definitely heavy into coal. I would think that they would have oil reserves there as well. I don't know, just saying.
And it starts to expose who's on whose side. Like, why are the Democrats in perfect agreement with China? Why is Thomas Massie in perfect agreement with China? Why is Marjorie Taylor Greene in perfectly agreement with China? Why? You can start to learn a lot about someone by the enemies and by their allies that they have. So we sent our UN ambassador, Mike Walz, who tore into the globalists at the UN. This is going to be a complete and utter glorious smackdown.
Transparency and integrity measures essential to upholding credible elections. If the UN and the United Nations in this body confers legitimacy on an illegitimate narco-terrorist and the same treatment in this charter of a democratically elected president or head of state, what kind of organization is this? We should note that over 50 countries, many nations, including the European Union, including a number of Latin American countries in the region, and of course the United States, again, over 50 countries rejected the legitimacy of Maduro's re-election following the disputed 2024 elections and do not recognize him as Venezuela's legitimately elected president. Transparency, integrity measures.
Okay, so why is it that the UN has been against Maduro until Trump deposes him? What happened? And he's saying, what is the good of the UN if they suddenly counter and start supporting Maduro, even though they all condemned him for not obeying his own elections? And that's because the UN is largely there just to condemn Israel, just to perform socialism. Here's Adam Housley online with a quick checklist on Venezuela. You're hearing, of course, a ton of politics about what happened in Venezuela. Everyone's spinning, and candidly, many have no actual depth on the issue. So he's going to go over a list of things. First of all, he said Maduro was a brutal dictator. So that's number one. Let me get down here on oil. So this is the main point. Though not because we need oil. America's sitting on all kinds of oil resources. The idea that we would depose Maduro just for oil does not tell the story. And that's what Thomas Massey accused Trump of. So did Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is war for oil. You hear it all the time from the left also. We don't need Venezuelan oil. Their oil is actually dirtier, harder to refine, and we have cleaner domestic sources. The key issue is that the oil we are now cutting off was going to Iran, China, and ultimately Russia. By removing the cheap supply, which was only enriching Maduro and his buddies, we put significant pressure on Iran, Russia, and China, who right now are exploiting natural resources across the globe. And by the way, the environmentalists should totally be supporting Trump on this one, because of this dirty oil that they're strip mining. They're pulling it out of the bottom of the ocean. They're ruining. You can read about what they've done in Africa and what's happening on the ocean floor. There we go. Yes, the U.S. has its issues. No argument there. But if I have to choose who leads the world between China, Iran, Russia, or us, I will choose us every single time. Number two, regional destabilization. Maduro and the Venezuelan regime have continued to destabilize the region, hurting other countries, supporting drug networks throughout Latin America. Number three is the Monroe Doctrine. This is the one that Trump keeps quoting. The Monroe Doctrine essentially says the U.S. needs to monitor and protect its own hemisphere. It's about ensuring the security of the region. In the last 25 years, something I've witnessed firsthand, Iran, Russia, and China have all built strategic outposts in Venezuela. Now, those are three real-life reasons. He's going to offer a fourth one down here, too. This is Adam Housley. Reason number four, it sends a message to China about Taiwan. The Chinese delegation was still in Caracas, meeting with Maduro and his cronies. Now, these are four real reasons. Now I'm going to give you a fake reason that is going out on the internet. Just want to say, be careful, because everyone in social media, everyone on the right, everyone in MAGA is going to talk about the Venezuela Dominion election ties. And you guys know that I drag my feet on this. It's not that I don't believe it. I'm way open to this, okay? But it has not been proven. And my concern is it completely shot across the internet without any checks and balances, without hard evidence. I have not seen hard evidence. Here's the biggest evidence that you'll find online. This is by DC Drano, and I think he gets ahead on a lot of things. He's one of the guys that received a binder from Pam Bondi back when they first said they were exposing the Epstein files. So we go running out on these half-cocked theories. And I just want to tell DC Drano's a guy that I trust. I like him, MAGA, all that. But this story, this could easily become another fake news story, guys. He says, and he's using all the vocabulary that I know, will bring me clicks. If I put a thumbnail on this instead of John Fetterman, which I did, but if I put Dominion, dominoes are falling, I would get double the views. So maybe I should do that next time. Dominion was bought by a Republican company. Maduro was captured and is sharing evidence with federal prosecutors, all true. President Trump is posting videos about Dominion election rigging and says 2020 election fraud will be exposed in 2026. Also true. Yeah, I'd say dominoes are being lined up. That I would not say. And then here's Kyle Becker. He does a little bit of work over at Explain America. And again, I just think we're getting ahead of this.
There were about 25,000 ballots that were not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot.
Okay, so that's the big spooky documentary with a music, the sound.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. He's talking a little bit more about the voting, but we've covered that. We covered that yesterday. But this video does come from Doug in Exile. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And he talked a little bit about oil. I have some information here from Grok. Oil shale deposits, Green River Formation. There's 1.5 to 4.3 trillion barrels under the Rocky Mountains. That was the question that I asked. What are the oil reserves under the Rocky Mountains? There's 1.5 to 4.3 trillion. Now, I've also seen where there's enough oil there that would cover our current usage for 125 years. Okay? So, I think Donald Trump is opening up this the access to this oil. It's in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and Montana, and parts of neighboring states. Now, of course, the blue states would probably not do that because, oil is bad for them, because, they would rather rely on the sun that only, burns anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day, only shines that long, if it's not cloudy, on solar power and, windmills. And if the wind doesn't blow, then you don't get electricity. So they're going to rely on that and live like cavemen. Alrighty, with that being said, let's jump back here and slide down and move on with Dr. Steve Turley and see. Alright. Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong thing and just kind of wiped us out there. Okay. Let me share the screen with you here. Here we go. Sorry about that again. Okay, Dr. Steve Turley. Let's see what he has to say.
Somali fraud bombshell has just claimed its first victim. And if what's being reported today is accurate, he's merely the first of many more to fall. Buckle up, because we're about to see how what just happened in Minnesota is just the beginning. And it's already sending shockwaves throughout the entire Democrat establishment. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, celebrating yet another day in Trump's golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Tim Walz, the man who just months ago stood on stage as a Democrat vice presidential nominee, promising to bring Minnesota values to Washington, is politically dead. Just like we predicted when the Somali fraud scandal first broke. We predicted that he would be the first to go, and that's exactly what he just announced. Walz has officially dropped out of the 2026 Minnesota governor's race amid the revelation that he oversaw as governor what many are calling the single biggest taxpayer fraud scandal in our nation's history. And what is nothing short of an astonishing political fall, the one-time Democrat vice presidential nominee announced that he is dropping out of his re-election race. And he's not leaving because he found a better opportunity or because he wants to spend more time with his family. He's running from something so massive, so catastrophic, that even the political establishment can't cover for him anymore. Nick Shirley, the young independent journalist who actually did what the legacy media used to do or is supposed to do, which is investigative journalism, he uncovered much of the fraud. He took a victory lap today, tweeting out, "I ended Tim Walz." And he did. Many of you may have seen his investigative video where he walked up to the front doors of government-funded daycare centers in Minneapolis and asked to check out the facilities. And what he found was stunning.
Here at Future Leaders Early Learning Center, this building received over $3 million. Hello, how are you? I would like to see if I could bring little Joey, my son, little Joey here. Is there paperwork or can I check out the daycare? No? Why can't I check out the daycare? Okay, but if I can't get paperwork or anything to submit my son, little Joey, to come in here to daycare? We'd really like to put Joey in this daycare. We've heard great things.
Business card?
No, I would like your business card, actually.
You talk to your manager.
Okay, can I speak with somebody? Where are the children at? Are there children here today?
No.
No children?
Yeah.
Why are there no children?
Two of Mexico.
Would my son, little Joey, have friends to play with here? No. No friends for little Joey?
Yes. Sorry.
Dang it. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Now, that was just one of 50 facilities that Nick visited, morning, afternoon, night. 0 children, right? None, nada. And yet each one of these centers were pulling in millions upon millions of taxpayer dollars. The Quality Learning Center, which couldn't even spell learning properly, they forgot the first N. So it's the Quality Learning Center. They received tens of millions of dollars without any children, no staff, no equipment, nothing. It was just a front for fraud. And it gets worse. Sweet Angel Childcare received over $1 million in taxpayer funding. But when you called their business number, it rang directly into Governor Tim Walz's office. Not a similar number, not a clerical error, the actual governor's office. Altogether, federal authorities are estimating that as much as $9 billion, possibly more, $9 billion of taxpayer dollars were stolen in dozens of fraudulent welfare programs set up in Tim Walz's state. And so the question now that everyone's asking isn't if this ends Walz's political career. That ship has sailed. The real question now is, what exactly did Tim Walz know about the biggest fraud scandal in American history? And when did he know it? You see, the resignation is an admission. Tim Walz dropping out of this race is an admission, and it goes way beyond admitting that his original political strategy to deal with this, right, calling all of his accusers white supremacists. You remember that? Just last week, he held a press conference and he blamed all the fraud accusations on white supremacism and xenophobia. I mean, you literally can't make this crap up. But it's an admission, not merely that playing the race card doesn't work anymore. It's bigger than that. It's an admission that the fraud that the federal investigators are uncovering as we speak is so bad, it's so massive, it's so corrupt that it is absolutely career-ending. That's how bad this corruption is. What we found out thus far is nothing compared to what's coming, and Tim Walz knows that. He knows what's coming, and he knows it's totally career-ending. But if that's the case, if the Minnesota Democrat corruption is so bad so as to end the career of their former VP nominee, what does that mean for the Democrat Party as a whole? You see, here's what the legacy media has been doing everything they possibly can to hide from you. This is what they don't want you to know. Minnesota just became ground zero for what federal prosecutors are calling industrial scale fraud. We're not talking about a few bad apples stealing from the government. We're talking about a systematic, coordinated operation that has potentially stolen up to $9 billion from federal programs designed to help children, seniors, people with autism, which means we're dealing with a corruption that involves both Democrat politicians and bureaucrats at one level, as well as a significant segment of their voting constituents on the other. We're now learning that whistleblowers, we're talking hundreds of social workers and government employees in Minnesota, they raised alarms about this fraud years ago, but they were suppressed. Those concerns weren't just ignored, they were openly and overtly opposed by Tim Walz himself. In fact, there were reports that he and his administration were blatantly intimidating and threatening these whistleblowers with retaliation if they went public. So this is a scandal that is implicating literally everyone at every level in the Walz administration. But the more we're learning, the more Democrats are realizing to their terror that this scandal has the potential bringing down the entire Democrat Party itself. Wait until you see this. But first, it is the new year. Happy New Year to all of you. And that means one thing, of course.
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, so let me get past that. There you go.
Here's really why Tampon Tim dropping out is such a big deal. Politicians don't voluntarily give up power unless something catastrophic is forcing their hand, right? Every mayor dreams of being governor. Every governor dreams of being president. I mean, these people spend millions of dollars and endure relentless scrutiny because they're addicted to power and wealth. Tim Walz was the Democrat vice presidential nominee literally just months ago. He was being touted in outlets like The New Yorker as a potential 2028 presidential front runner. Now, things are so bad, he can't even win re-election in his own state. His approval rating has collapsed as a result of the scandal to his lowest numbers of his political career. And when he realized that the fraud scandal was becoming so massive with new revelations literally every day, he read the writing on the walls. His days in politics are over. Now, the Democrat establishment is already scrambling. It looks like Senator Amy Klobuchar is next in line here. She met with Walz on Sunday, where he informed her of his plans to resign, and she confirmed her interest in running to replace him. But here's the problem. This scandal isn't going away. In fact, Walz dropping out is only going to make sure that it explodes. The American people will assume, quite correctly, that the fraud must be even worse than we know about if a former vice presidential nominee can't even defend his record in his own home state. In fact, things have gotten so out of control that the legacy media can't spin this anymore. You know this. I mean, for weeks, they've been trying to dismiss the fraud allegations as a MAGA hoax or claim the real story was the harassment of innocent Somali daycare owners. So outlets, shameless outlets like Salon, NPR, CNN, The Intercept, The Atlantic, they all ran stories attacking Nick Shirley. They attacked the investigative reporter who was actually doing their job. And they had the gall to defend the fraud and defend the fraudulent operations. But Walz quitting validates everything that Nick Shirley and the real media have been reporting now for weeks. It's the ultimate admission that the fraud is real. It's massive, and Democrats can't run from it anymore. The collapse of Tim Walz's political career sends an unmistakable message. The era of Democrats escaping accountability for incompetence and corruption is over. For years, progressive politicians have expanded government programs with minimal oversight, intentional, of course, assuming that they could use the veneer of their supposed humanitarianism as cover for their blatant corruption. Minnesota proves that assumption is catastrophically wrong. Minnesota was supposed to be a progressive success story. Instead, it's become a tragic tale, a warning about what happens when Democrats come to such power, when governments grow too large and bloated, when oversight becomes intentionally too weak, and politicians prioritize bribes over the common good. Tim Walz's political career is over. But the fraud scandal he's leaving behind is just getting started. Federal investigators are nowhere near finished. More indictments are indeed coming. More convictions are inevitable. And the American people are finally seeing what happens when you trust progressive politicians to police themselves. The only question left is, who's next? So,
okay, there you have it. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I'm subscribed to his channel, following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty, let's jump back here and move on with Wendy Bell. Not America only, America first. Now she's going to go into a backstory here of some personal things that happened to her when she was a reporter, and then she's going to get into her story. So we'll listen to that, and I'll finish up in my daily news wrap-up. So here we go. Let me get this. Whoa. Hang on. Let me get it back here for you. I thought I had this all set up, and man, I'm getting screwed over today. Okay, here we go.
Friend, okay, whatever. You know, I always thought he was an okay guy. I thought he kind of rode that line. He was not an abject leftist. He was not in the bag on the right. He kind of danced on the line. And isn't that sort of what you want out of your news guy, right? And so last week he comes out and he puts out this video and we're like, this is super interesting, right? And I mocked it. And I think it was sort of worthy of it, though I feel a little bit bad today. I got to tell you, I feel a little weird about it. And here's why. So Tony DeCopel is named by the new CBS News exec, Barry Weiss, the new face of CBS. Clearly, CBS is in a free fall. They've had 60 Minutes issues. They've been selling off this and that, rejoining, merging, whatever, all of these different things going on behind the scenes. But the one overarching truth you need to know about broadcast television, and I'm going to speak specifically about broadcast TV, about the TV news. You are dealing with the biggest bunch of crybaby, narcissistic, insecure egomaniacs the world has ever seen. Honestly, everybody's like, Donald Trump, he's got such a big ego. I'm like, oh, heaven's sakes. Walk into any of these places. These folks truly believe they are that special. And here's a news flash. They're not, okay? So Tony DeCopel comes out and he says something on TV last week, puts it out. He's like, hey, my name's Tony. I'm going to be taking over. You're going to see me. I get that you don't trust us. I get that trust in media sucks. And I get a lot of the reason why. And it's that we rely on too many of the wrong people, the experts, the elite voices, the scholars, if you will. And we've completely deviated from touching you and listening to you and sharing your story. And so I'm going to be a standard here now in the evening, and I want you to give me a shot, and I'm not going to let you down. Okay. I thought it was curious at the time. I'm like, oh gosh. Well, he had his first show apparently yesterday in his new capacity, and it was a train wreck. And it wasn't a train wreck because of Tony DeCopel. It was a train wreck because train wrecks happen on live television. And I was on TV for years and years. And I was there when they moved in all these new robotic cameras, and there's some goofball with a joystick in another room upstairs who's trying to navigate the things. Then they're moving around, and the cameras would move off of position while you were talking, right? They'd spin around and crash into stuff. And literally, I would look into the camera if there was a camera nearby. And I'd be like, don't go anywhere. Because this is the greatest television ever. It's horrible for me, but it's fantastic for you to watch complete and utter disaster, right? So apparently he tries to go to this one story, and the wrong picture pops up, and then it's not Tim Walz, it's this other guy, and then everything gets conflated, and maybe the prompter is not where. It's almost like Tony DeCopel and his big primetime evening news debut for CBS was a little sabotaged, if you will. And he had to basically come out and be like, I'm sorry. It's kind of been a rough first day, but hang with me because it can't be worse tomorrow, right? There's an element of that I very much appreciate. Do I know Tony DeCopel? I don't. But I want to share with you a story of why I know the nuance of news business. And we're at this weird crossroads, and Tony is on that zone. He's got one foot in the old media, and he's got the other foot in reality. And in reality, nobody cares about the old media. Old people are watching. That's about it. Okay? It's changing. We're getting our news from people on the street, not just citizen journalists, not just Nick Sorters, and not just Nick Shirleys and people like that. Not just Liz Colin, but people like you. People who see something and say something. And I think what you're seeing right now, just in our country in general, is the way it's always been getting threatened by the way it's now going to be. And there are a lot of people who like the good old days. They like the good old ways it used to be. This is the way the rules are. This is why you have so many Republicans in Congress who are unwilling to fiddle with the filibuster. That's not the way it's supposed to be. The old way, well, here's a news flash. And Tony DeCopel got it. We are bridging a gap. You need to find relevance from the old and come into the new, and bring people who long ago stopped paying attention to you back into the fray. Many years ago, when I was working at a TV station here in Pittsburgh, the station was doing an hour-long special on soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was tasked with co-hosting this particular special. And they gave me perhaps the most difficult jobs. It was to go out and find a Gold Star mom or dad and have them trust me to sit down and tell me about their son or daughter who got blown up 1,000,000 miles away. And another story was about suicide. I found a family by looking at the obituaries. I always read the obituaries. Phenomenal stories, sadly, come out of the obituaries. And there was a local soldier who was being buried the next day. And I reached out to the family, and the father answered the phone. And he invited me and a camera to his son's viewing and funeral. And he allowed me to put a microphone on him as he stood and greeted the mourners as his dead son's body laid out to his right. This man trusted me, and he shared stories with me and heartache with me and an inside look at the horrors of war and what happens to young soldiers when they come home. Right before that story was supposed to air, and I spent a lot of time on it and a lot of heart, it came out that the young dead soldier hadn't committed suicide. He had overdosed on heroin. And the station told me, my news managers told me, that I needed to change my story and turn it from a tragic suicide, a tragic passing of a scarred soldier who saw too much, into showing him to be a druggie who overdosed on heroin. Now I want to ask you a question. How would you do that? Would you allow that to be the story after the father let you into the son's viewing? Would you allow that to go on and blindside a family already reeling, wondering how they were going to put it together? What would you do? Because what I did was I said no. No. That the station had to call the family, or I did, and tell them what was going on and ask them if they wanted to pull the story. And I was told no. We were going to edit it and put the story on of his heroin overdose. I lost a lot of faith in people in that moment. And I called that father and I said, you need to call now and say you wish to pull your support of the story. And I sunk it. It probably was the beginning of my end at that television station. I don't care. Right is right. North is north. And the way it always was isn't the way it's going to be ever again. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, the news of the day, I'm going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with Trump's approval, has nothing to do with Nicolas Maduro. It has nothing to do with Tim Walz or what's going on with the Somalis. It has to do with every single parent and grandparent out there. You won't want to miss this bombshell. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, well, let's get this up here and see what bombshell.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. You know, it's never easy or requested to stand on that line, to have your legs straddle how things always have been and the way things are going to be going forward. It's a tough place to be. It's a tough place to be that person who says, hey, this isn't working, or no, we're not going to do that, or I know you think that this is all that matters. News, news, news. You got to report the news. It's newsy, Wendy, that this guy whose viewing and funeral you experienced, you went to personally, it affected you emotionally. Screw it. The guy died from heroin. We got to put that in the story. Why? What is that advance? He's dead. And they're grieving. And you want me to drive it home? Do you want me to put on a pair of stilettos and dig the heels into them while they're on the ground? Wondering how they're going to wake up the next day. You want me to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't care how much you want to pay me. or how much you want to threaten me. Look, this is where we are, right? Think about the one person who's managed to shake up the entire planet. He's the one guy who's not in government, the one guy who's never been a politician, the one guy, the biggest outsider. They laughed at him from the beginning. The same way Keith Olbermann and all these former CBS hacks are laughing at Tony DeCoppel. Look at him. He fell flat on his face on his first show. You know what, friends? It happens. It happens. It's the way of television. Whatever. There are those who will resist. And there are those who see what's going on. And when you see what's going on, you have a very, very short fuse for those who resist. Look, this story is the one of the day. Did you see the Trump truth last night? Because I did. It was beautiful. The president coming out on Truth Social and saying this. Today, the Trump administration is proud to announce the United States of America's updated childhood vaccination schedule. Yes, the schedule is rooted in the gold standard of science and widely agreed upon by scientists and experts all over the world. Effective today, America will no longer require 72 jabs for our beautiful, healthy children. We are moving to a far more reasonable schedule where all children will only be recommended to receive vaccinations for 11 of the most serious and dangerous diseases. Parents can still choose to give their children all of the vaccinations if they wish, and they will still be covered by insurance. However, this updated schedule finally aligns the United States with other developed nations around the world. Congratulations to HHS Secretary Bobby Kennedy, CDC Acting Director Jim O'Neill, who we've heard a lot of lately, FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, CMS Administrator Dr. Oz, Jay Bhattacharya, et cetera, many Americans, especially the Maha moms, have been praying for these common sense reforms for many years. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Look, if you want to play games with America's children, if you think it's okay to put syringes in their little bodies, and I've had 5 of these kids, and I can tell you all of them have had one series where they got 4 shots, 2 in one thigh and 2 in the other. You can't tell me that that makes any sense. The way it's been has been wrong. We have among the fattest, most sickly children on planet Earth. Why is that? Why is that? Oh, I don't know. Let's stop playing games. The way it's always been is over. We are not going back. We will protect our children. We will protect our warriors. We will protect our borders. We will protect our children from drugs. We will protect them in school. Don't mess with us. That is a message to the deep state. You damn well better be afraid. Because we understand nobody's voting for you, nobody's giving to you. So you gotta steal to stay in power. Well, that power is coming to a freaking end because we are tired of excuses. We're tired for the way things have always been. We're tired of your crime and your corruption. And we're more above all else. We're so freaking tired of you always getting away with it. It is a new day. You either get with the program that the lion's share of America voted for. 80, how many million Americans voted for this? If you don't like it, put a sock in it and take a seat. In America, elections are won the old-fashioned way. Vote by vote. Not by election fraud, not by machines, not by midnight ballot dumps on the loading dock, not by, oh, there's a water main break. Everybody go home. We'll come back at 8 a.m. and start counting then. Okay, bye. Done. And we're done starting with our kids. Parents, rejoice. You have a president who trusts you and you alone. Quick time out when we're back on the Wendy Bell radio program. The truth is all coming out. Let's dig into more of these Maha things you need to know about. Will blow your mind next.
All right. I'm going to continue this with my daily news wrap-up. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Let me share some information here with you from Augusta Gold before we move on.
Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often?
Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice.
If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE to 35052 today.
Okay, I've just copied the live chat into a comment so it will be permanent with this video. And I'm sorry about Wendy Bell. I got a notice here from Elaine C., supporter, can't hear anything. I don't know why Rumble Studio does that sometimes. Just sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I launch the videos exactly the same every time, but sometimes Rumble Studio has a little glitch in it and the audio doesn't come through. I can hear it in my headphones, you know, and normally I try to check the TV or my phone, because I have the video playing on my phone here. I checked my phone to see if there's any audio, but LNC caught it before I did and let me know, so I had to do a refresh on Rumble and get it restarted for you. Sorry. Just like Wendy Bell said when, you know, that guy had the problem on his TV station. I have problems here too. That's the beauty of live streaming. Okay. Let me remind you folks that these videos that I share with you are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos in the description box as well as the links to their channels. So if you want to see what other information they have or if you want to watch the video over again, right there's your chance to do it. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. I do it to just give people an opportunity to hear the truth, rather than having to rely on the lies and propaganda from the mainstream media. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I post on Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos, your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. Now, I will continue with Wendy Bell and some of the videos from my website that I wasn't able to share with you here. Got Wendy Bell, Dr. Steve Turley, some more of him, Black Conservative Perspective, McWater's Effect, On the Fringe, X22 Report, SGT Reports, more Dr. Steve Turley, MG Show, Bannon's War Room. Got all kinds of information in here. 17 videos. It's going to last throughout the night. So if you're interested in hearing some more no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth, meet me back here about 9:30 and we'll get this going. So go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, or a glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here about 9:30. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.